Hey guys, what's up? Um, you know, I didn't really start this channel to be a gripe session about Trump and the politics and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to share my insights about traveling around the world and doing the things that we're doing in the moment because when I have these conversations with my friends, oftentimes, I'm having to reflect on the different countries I've been to and tell them what my experience was. And I thought, okay, well, why don't I just share this while I'm in the moment, while I'm right here in the city? Like right now, I'm in Accra, Ghana, and it's lovely. It's lovely to be here. It's a developing country, and people are moving here so that they can create their businesses and hit the ground running in a developing country, in a developing nation, because there's so many different needs, and people in America and other places can come here and really get their businesses and things going. Whereas in America, you already have the Targets and the WalMarts and the big corporations, and you have all of that already going. Whereas someone can come here from the United States with a small business or from Europe or somewhere and hit the ground running, and in a few years, maybe their business can really thrive and take off and meet some needs here that people are looking for. So if they find a particular niche that works for them, then it's wonderful. It's great. And I wanted my channel to be about that type of thing, not so much about travel. I travel all over the world. I've been to 73 countries so far. But if you ask me how would I go about traveling, I couldn't tell you. A lot of those things, honestly, my wife handles a lot of those things. She's really good at it. And so there's no need for me to fumble around trying to do things like that because she's the expert in all of that in our family. So, but the thing that I'm finding in the news in the United States, a lot of the things that I found in the United States to be troubling has gotten worse over the last 6 years, and they continue to get worse. And what I find is that a lot of people don't really understand that America was created to be this very specific country for a very specific reason, but we're told something opposite to that. And we don't understand. Like when we look around and we see people working really hard, really thriving to get ahead, um, how all these things are taken away from them. You can buy a home. My wife and I were just having this conversation yesterday. You can buy a home and actually pay that home off, and the taxes and insurance can get so bad to where it literally replaces the mortgage you once had. So if you pay the mortgage off, a 30-year, 15-year, 10-year mortgage, and you're thinking, okay, I can sit back now, I have a home, I have a place where I can rest my head, I don't have to worry about that. But then all of a sudden, the taxes skyrocket, and you can get put out of your home that you own because you can't afford the taxes on it. And that's what's happening to farmers and people all around the country, hardworking people that have put so much into their career, so much into their livelihood, to have the whole carpet ripped right from under them, and everything can fall apart. And we look at situations like the healthcare situation. They tell us over and over again, we can't have universal health care in our country. And that is such garbage. Our country can afford universal health care. We really can. But it's not something that Americans are pushing for because the media tells us that universal health care is a bad thing. It's not. It's not a bad thing. It's never been a bad thing. What happens is the insurance companies, the corporations, the lobbyists, the hospitals, the doctors, they don't push for universal health care. And the reason they don't push for universal health care is because they make much less money. And Americans basically, their taxes will pay for the health care. Okay. That's why Mexico can have a universal health care and America does not. It's because the people that put money in the politicians' pockets, they get their needs met first, not Americans, not regular everyday Americans. That's why we have homelessness. That's why we have healthcare issues. That's why people lose their homes and get bankrupted and lose everything they have. It's because of these corporations and these lobbyists. They put money in the politicians' pockets. And so, because of that, I mean, I can't put $1 million or $500,000 in a politician's pocket, but these corporations can do that. They can get together and they can do that. Um, Donald Trump was is a result of capitalism. What do I mean by that? Our Supreme Court basically said, "Hey, corporations can put as much money as they want into politics and campaigns." So what does that mean? That means that the corporations can put money in the pockets of the politicians, and the politicians will do them favors once they get elected. And that's how it works. And so we're not taught that in school. We're not taught that, okay, we're taught that America is for the people, by the people, the whole thing, right? But our country doesn't work that way. It's probably never worked that way, honestly. But these are the things that we're told, but it's probably never worked that way. So what I'm saying is everything that's going on right now, this country, the country isn't broken. The system isn't broken. The system is designed to do exactly what it's doing. And the system will put particular people out of work and it'll put burden on the everyday Americans. Let me give you an example. Why is it we don't tax the richest people in America? These people are these are people that make billions upon billion, hundreds of billions of dollars, and they never get taxed. So they live like they live in the UAE. They don't get taxed. There's no taxes coming out of the money that they earn. Because there's no taxes coming out, we have to, everyday people pay the taxes every year without fail. And if we don't, then we get penalized for it. Whereas these people make billions and billions of dollars. And if you tax someone who's making 200 plus billions of dollars, that's enough to pay for our health care right there. That's enough to give students free college education. These people can't spend that money in their lifetime, in 40 lifetimes. Okay. So I want people to really start to understand just what's going on. And so right now, really, the topic I wanted to talk about today is very simple. It's the voting right. It's the voting, uh, uh, the legislation that just got kicked out by the Supreme Court that basically says, giving people the right to vote and and what that entails. And so, guys, since forever ago, we've had the right to vote. Well, they're taking these rights away one by one. They're stripping them away. And so they'll do things like have a pretend shooting at the president of the United States. And that'll be all over the media. That'll be covered all over the media. But they won't talk about what's really happening behind the scenes. What's really happening behind the scenes is they're stealing your right to vote. And that's a very serious issue. Okay. They're taking us back to the Stone Ages. When people don't have the right to vote, okay, um, you're not going to get any other rights because you vote on the things that you want. You vote on them. We're a country that votes. It's supposed to be a democracy. That's a loaded word because America hasn't been a democracy for a long time. And people like me have been sharing this over and over again. We're not a democracy. We're not a total autocracy yet, but we're not a democracy. But by these people being able to take away our votes and our voting rights and our voting powers, um, this is going to be a very critical issue for people in the future. What I'm saying is the America that you've grown up to know is changing, and it's going to change dramatically right in front of you. And you won't have to know that it's changed because you're going to feel it viscerally. You're going to feel it inside that America's not the same. It's not the same. And you're going to see it more and more as this thing changes, because what's happening is we have a right-leaning Supreme Court, and that's the Supreme Court that's stripping women of their rights. They're going to strip men of their rights. And guys, they're going to put us right back into the Jim Crow era. Okay. And they're pushing. Okay. And they're threatening people's livelihoods and their lives with this type of political situation. And it's sad to say, but many of the conspiracy theorists and people are out there who have been screaming for a civil war. Honestly, it might come to that when people really realize how many of their rights are being taken away from them. And the sad part about it is no one wants to fight a civil war, because that means that communities are going to start fighting against communities. We're already divided. Communities are going to fight against communities for different rights and reasons and different things like that. And so it becomes a very volatile situation. And that situation just needs a match. It's already got fuel, right, for the fire. All it's going to need is a spark. And when that spark hits, that means that you and your family are going to be in the middle of a terrible situation. And here's the deal. I've been halfway around the world already. I've been in countries where this has happened. And things don't go in a straight line. They go in cycles and circles, right? And it's America's turn. It's going back around into a circle. And you're going to find yourself in a very precarious situation. You know, I'm interested to see what's going to happen in this next election. But also, I'm concerned about what's going to happen in this next election, because I believe the Democrats are going to win a lot in the next election. I really believe the Democrats are going to win a lot. The problem with that, and hear me on this, the problem with that is just that our Democratic leaders are not suited for this period of time. What do I mean by that? They're not suited for this period of time. We don't have strong Democratic leaders. Our leaders are easily swayed. They're on the fence most of the times, and they can get swayed and pulled over by the Republicans. And here's the thing with that. All it really takes is to have enough Democrats with enough dirt that the Republicans can use to persuade their vote. What do I mean by that? Let's say we've got a Democrat that's got a bunch of hidden agendas going on, and the Republicans can pull his strings like a puppet. Okay, you get enough Democrats that got enough dirt, then the Republicans can use that to pull them to their side. They can blackmail them into something. And even though we have a strong Democratic pull and momentum right now, that doesn't mean that we have the type of people with the integrity and the courage and the zip and the fortitude to fight for what we want. Okay? Because if we have a lot of politicians that can be paid off or persuaded or cajoled or pushed into an agenda, we're done for. And that happens all the time. That's why people don't trust politicians, is because a guy might say a certain thing, but then he votes a certain way. Okay. And we have to have our eyes on the ball of it. Now, guys, here's the thing. Look at me. I've been traveling full time for 6 years around the world. You might say, come on, David, this doesn't really affect you. You're not even here. You're not even in America. Right? But it does affect me. It affects me in a different way. Okay. Because I still have family members that live in America. I still have friends that live in America. I still care about my community that's in America. And I still understand, and I'm educated, right? I still understand how America works and what it's done to our groups of people, what it's done to our communities. I worked in the Black community as a real estate broker. I saw people lose their homes. I saw our communities fighting and struggling as the white communities barged in with urban development and took people's homes. That's always been a fight. I've seen people get their taxes raised up, and so Black people are pushed out of the city and into these suburban areas. Okay, this has happened traditionally to us and our people, and we have to fight. Now, over the years, I've learned how all of this has happened because I've been able to take a step back and travel. I've learned how a lot of these things came about. There was a time when Black people ruled the whole entire world, the known world. And I've seen how all of that was taken away, and I see the desperation in many of the European countries to make sure that that never happens again. I see, I've been in African countries. I've been into about 13 African countries now, and I see the way that European countries try to blackball African countries to make sure that their power doesn't grow. And African countries are in a dynamic situation right now, but I see how pressure builds to make sure that African countries never rise to the level of their true capabilities. These countries are exploited and these countries are destabilized, and it's really, really a fight for them to stay ahead, to stay afloat when the European countries are stripping away everything they can from them as much as they can get away with. All of these things are issues in our community, in the diaspora. Okay. But our consciousness has to elevate. We have to understand that our forefathers and the people ahead of us were telling us that we needed to unify, and we have to unify. And if we don't, it means that our culture, it means that our communities are going to slowly disappear. They're going to erode into nothingness and they're going to disappear. Now, I see this and I want to share this with you as well. I see that we control music. We control many industries with our music and our talents and our arts and all of these things. But our entertainment does not save us. I want you to understand that there's a difference between freedom fighters and entertainers. Entertainers are not freedom fighters. They're the people who are on the TV the most, and they're the people in front of you the most. They make their money and they go home. They're not freedom fighters. And seeing people on TV like me, seeing people on TV doesn't save anyone. We're not Patrice Lumumba. We're not Nelson Mandela. We're not Huey Newton. We're not Fred Hampton. We're not Malcolm X. We're not MLK. We're none of those guys. We're not freedom fighters. We're entertainers. So I want you to understand. People see all of this stuff, and it gets them going. And I understand that. But the way we're going to survive is through, excuse me, there's an airplane flying over, and I'm outside. Okay, it's passing now. It's passing. So what I was saying is that this legislation is going to harm us. And legislation like it is going to continue to harm us. And we need the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs, but we need them. We need the Bernie Sanders, but we need them to be in the powerful position. I'm not a fan of Jeffries and people like that, because I'm not a fan of Booker, because I've read that a lot of these people get money from powerful contributors like AIPAC and Israel, and that messes with me. That whole Gaza situation messes with me. I don't believe it was right, and I don't believe Israel dragging us into these wars is right. Has nothing to do with Jewish people, has everything to do with Zionism. We need to understand these things, because our families, we're the age now that our activists were. Malcolm X, we're the same age these guys were. MLK, we're the same age now. So now we need to start fighting for the things we believe in. Otherwise, our communities are going to be destroyed. That's important to me. That's important to me. We need to fight for our communities. And if that means not shopping with some of these corporations, not spending our money in these corporations, those are the things that we have to do to survive. And we need to start talking about the things we need to do to survive. So those are my thoughts today. My thoughts today is they just took a valuable piece of legislation from us. Okay. And these things are not, even if the Democrats win, these things are not going to come back overnight. They're not, because we don't control the Supreme Court. So I just want you guys to understand that, and I want you guys to be thinking about that, because these things do affect us. When people say, "Oh, this politics, it doesn't affect us," it does affect us. We were invited to the table, and now we're losing at the table. You understand? And that invite took years and years and generations to fight to get the invite to the table, and now we're being removed from the table. And that's a serious thing. And not enough people are talking about it in our community. It's a very serious thing. I'm going to leave you with that.